Hello and welcome to my craft room in my 1902 farmhouse. My name is Alicia with Country Mama Musings, and today we're going to be working on block 51 of our Heirloom Afghan crochet along, the star stitch. So grab your supplies and let's get started. We're going to begin block 51, the star stitch, with whatever color you have chosen to be color B and our size H crochet hook. We're going to start with a slip knot, leaving a nice long tail to sew in later. And we're going to chain 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 24, 25, and 26. Let's begin row 1. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. We'll have 25 single crochet when we're done, so not counting the loop on your hook and not counting this first chain, we're going to move to the second chain and begin placing single crochets all the way down our beginning chain. Meet up with you when I get to the end of our beginning chain. 23, 24, and right here at the very end is 25. So for row 1 we have 25 nice and evenly spaced single crochet. Let's move on to row 2. Now if you've read the pamphlet that has the pattern for this Afghan, I find the instructions for block 51 to just be slightly confusing based on how I've learned how to crochet a star stitch in the past. So I'm going to do my best to follow the written pattern. However, I have played with it a little bit and I'm going to do the best I can to show you how I believe this should be done, because the instructions are a tad off. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, according to your pattern, you want to turn your work to start. I'm going to suggest that you don't turn yet because we're going to be working in this chain. Working in the second chain from the hook. So here's your loop on your hook. Here's your first chain here. This is your second chain. We're just going to enter that second chain, grab your yarn and pull it back through to put another loop on your hook. And now we're going to do that in the next chain. Put your hook through that chain and pull through a loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Now turn your work. It's just so difficult to get into the chain when it's facing the wrong direction. Right here in your first single crochet, enter that stitch. Make sure you go through both the front loop and the back loop. Pull up another loop on your hook. You've got 4 loops on your hook now. Go to the next single crochet and do the same thing, pulling up a loop. Now we have 5. Go to the next single crochet and pull up a loop, and now we have 6. Now you're going to yarn over and pull that loop through all 6 loops that are already on your hook, just like that, and that creates the star part of your pattern. We're going to chain 1. That closes the star and it creates this little eyelet. Do you see the little hole right there in the center of the star? That's the eyelet of the star. Now most patterns have you move directly right into the next star. However, this pattern has us adding an additional chain in between stars. So we've chained to close our star. Now we're going to chain 1 before moving on to our next star. We're going to start by going into the eyelet of our star. Go through that little hole where that eyelet is, grab a loop and pull it through. And here's where the instructions get a little bit iffy. It says to grab the next 2 loops from this prior star. Is it these 2 loops? Is it these 2 loops? Is it going through these 2 loops this way? It's just hard to say. So I did some research on it. I've really looked over their pattern illustrations as much as I can, and this is what I'm going to suggest we do. We're just going to go right here. We're going to pick up these 2 loops. We're going to consider this a front and back loop of that last loop here. So if we look at our star, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go in between 5 and 6 and just get those 2 loops there. And grab your yarn and pull it back through to create a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. Now we're going to go into this last single crochet where we worked the first star. Go into that single crochet. We've already got a stitch in it, but we're going to put another element to it here. Pull that through. Now we have 4 loops on our hook. Go to the next single crochet and pull up a loop. Go to the next single crochet and pull up a loop. So we always want to have 6 loops on our hook before we create a star. Yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on your hook, creating your next star. You're going to close that star with a chain, and then you're going to chain 1. Let's work our next star. We're going to go into the eyelet of the star. You can see the little hole there in the center of it. That's the eyelet of the star. Go into that eyelet, grab our yarn and pull through. We have 1 loop in addition to the loop we already had. So we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to go down here and working in between these 2 stitches here, just grab a loop and pull it through. We're going to go to the last single crochet that we used for the prior star. Go through there, pull up a loop, and then in the next 2 single crochets we're going to do that again. Go through the single crochet, pull up a loop, go through the next single crochet, pull up a loop. We have 6 loops on our hook. Going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on our hook, creating our 3rd star. Close that with a chain. We're going to chain 1 according to our pattern. Pull up a loop through the eyelet of the previous star. Pull up a loop from the last 2 loops of our star there. I know it seems like we should go over here and do it, but I've tried it. It does not make a pretty star. So we're going to do it right there. Into the last single crochet we worked in, and then pull up a loop through the next 2 single crochet. 6 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 6 loops, close it with a chain, and chain 1 and go right into our next star. Into the eyelet, pull up a loop. Into the loop from that star, pull up a loop. Into the last single crochet from the last star, pull up a loop. Into the next single crochet, pull up a loop. Into the next single crochet, pull up a loop. We've got 6 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through all 6, chain to close. And here you can see we've got a series of these little stars with the little eyelets as we work across. Continue this till you get to the end. We should have a total of 12 stars when you get there. I'm going to go ahead and finish my stars for this row, and I'll meet you there. I'm here to the very last star that we're making. This is my last single crochet from row 1. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a loop there. So I have my 6 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops and chain 1 to close. So here is row 2. We should have 12 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Let's move on to row 3. Hey, are you enjoying putting together all of the beautiful heirloom sampler blocks for our heirloom Afghan crochet along? If so, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, check out the playlist that has all of the videos for every block for our crochet along, and be sure to share the video with your friends that like to crochet. Okay, let's get back to our project for this week. For row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. We're going to place 2 single crochet in the first eyelet. So here's our star from the prior row. Here's the eyelet, that little hole in the center of our star. We're going to place 2 single crochets there. There's 1 and there's 2. Now we need to place a single crochet in the next stitch. So at the very top of our star here, that's the close of that stitch there. We're not going to try to go into that chain 1. I think it's just there to give us a little bit of leeway. There's a single crochet. We're going to single crochet in the next eyelet. You can see the hole right there for the eyelet. We're going to single crochet there. And we're going to single crochet in the next stitch. So if you look at your stitch across, that's it right there, the very top of that star. Single crochet in the eyelet, single crochet in the stitch, single crochet in the eyelet, single crochet in the stitch. You're going to work your single crochets all the way across. Now this is the back of our work, so our stars don't look as pretty on this side, but if you flip it over, you can still see we still have very pretty prominent stars on the front, so don't worry that you're messing up your stars. I'm going to continue placing single crochets in the eyelets and the stitches all the way until I get to the end here. You should have 25 single crochets when you get to the end. I'll meet up with you there. 23. Here's our last eyelet, 24. And the top of that very first star is going to be 25. Make sure you get 2 loops on the hook there when you do that last stitch of row 3. So here we have row 3. This is the back side of our block, and we just completed another row of single crochet. We're going to repeat rows 2 and rows 3. So let's do row 2 one more time. For row 2, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and again I'm going to do my first couple of slips before I turn my work. Because if I turn my work, it's just not as easy to get in here. So before I turn, I'm going to this second chain from the hook. I'm going to slip into that chain and pull up a loop. Going into the next chain, slipping in, pull up a loop. Now I can turn my work, and I'm going to go to that very first stitch there, enter that single crochet and pull up a loop. I have 4 loops on my hook now. Enter the next single crochet and pull up a loop. I have 5 loops. Enter the next single crochet and pull up a loop. I have 6 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on my hook, creating our next row of stars. That's the beginning. We're going to chain 1 to close that star and chain 1 before we make our next star. To make our next star, we're going to enter the eyelet of this star, that little hole right there, entering into the eyelet and pulling up a loop. We now have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to go right here to the very end of our star and put our hook through the very last part of it there and pull up a loop. We're going to the last single crochet that we've got right here that we've worked in from that last star and pull up a loop. Go to the next single crochet and pull up a loop, and the next single crochet and pull up a loop. We have 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 6, and chain 1 to close. So now we've got 2 stars. Chain 1 before we start our next star. Now what I like to show you now that we've kind of got an idea of what we're doing, it's so easy if you just know that you're going to be placing your hook in 5 times and pulling up a loop. So right here into the eyelet is 1. In between the stitches here is 2. Into that single crochet that we already worked in is 3. Single crochet is 4. Single crochet is 5. We have 6 loops on our hook. Pull through all 6 loops and chain 1 to close. So without speaking, I'm going to do a few of them to see just how quickly this pattern is going to start working. Here we go. I've got the chain 1. So let's do our 5 loops. Pull through and chain 1 to close. See how simple that is? This is a nice quick pattern. There's our chain 1 before we start our next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull through all 6 loops that are on our hook and chain 1. You might say, how come we're entering 5 times but we have 6 loops? I don't know where the 6th loop comes from. You're starting with a loop on your hook. Let's chain 1. You're starting with the loop on your hook. So by the time you enter 5 times, now you've got 6. So here's 1. Now we've got 2 loops, 3 loops, 4 loops, 5 loops, and 6 loops. Pull through all 6 loops after you yarn over, close that star with a chain, and you can see all the pretty stars come together. I'm going to continue working on row 2 and row 3. I'll meet up with you at about the halfway point. We'll see how our block is looking. So I'll see you there. I'm checking in here at about the halfway point. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of our stars, and I just finished row 3 again, and I wanted to take a look and see how our block is shaping up. We have these nice beautiful rows of our stars with single crochet in between. One edge is going to be nice and neat because this is where we do our chain 3s and turn. This here, it's a little bit more loopy here on the ends here because this is where we end our stars and turn to do our single crochets. But once we get our edging on, it's all going to work out okay. Don't worry about that. If your work is starting to turn in a little bit, you may have missed a stitch somewhere. Make sure that you always have 25 single crochet and 12 stars when you finish those rows. If it's starting to veer out a little bit and become wider, you may have an extra stitch in there. So go back, find out where you have a correct count and take your work out to that point and pick it back up again and then keep going. I'm going to do probably 3 more rows and then I'll check to see, I shouldn't say rows, 3 more rows of stars and see where we're at. And I'll come back, we'll do some measurements and see what we need to complete this block. I'll see you there. Going to be working the very last star now on this row. We'll count the row and see what it is here in a second. I think I'm very close to the end of my rows here for completing our square. So there I've completed that row, and keep in mind that this is going to have a little bit of a stretch to it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows of stars. Let's take our tape measure out and see where we're at. I'm right at about 6 inches. According to the pattern, they are showing 7 completed rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Provided that this is going to have a little bit of a stretch to it, I don't think I'm going to add another row because then it'll be too big. I'd rather have it stretch a little bit than have it squishy and wrinkly in the middle. So now I'm just going to complete 1 more row of our single crochet, and then we can discuss what we're going to do from that point. Again, here at the ends, 2 single crochet, and then a single crochet in the top, a single crochet in the eyelet, a single crochet in the top of the stitch, a single crochet in the eyelet. We're going to have 25 single crochet when we get to the end of this row, as you should have been doing all along, and I'll meet up with you there. And 1 more single crochet there in that final row. This really is a nice, beautiful, dense, thick, squishy stitch. Isn't it so pretty? Now what you want to do once you know that you're at about the right size, and we're going to fold this over here. Let's do our little test to see if it makes a square by making a triangle. Look at that. We're right where we need to be when we fold this over on the diagonal. So I know that this is where I need to stop actually making the block. Now I'm going to complete round 1 of our edging in the same color that we've made our block in. Then I'm able to finish off, and then I can complete round 2 in the color A that we're going to be using for joining all of our squares. There's only one thing left to do after you've completed your edging, and that's get yourself a tag. Mark this as week 51, the star stitch in color B. Add that to your block and set it aside with your other blocks until we're ready to put our Afghan together. Well, thank you so much for joining me here in the craft room today. I look forward to seeing you next week when we do block 52 up and down stitch. That sounds interesting. Until I see you then, please remember to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.